Total Recall from 1990 with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And this was my pick. So I get to be the one that has to try to explain this thing for those who haven't seen it. But
explain this movie, John.
This is not easy. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a guy who's been having dreams about being on Mars. This is in the future. Mars has a colony. They're mining some very important stuff out of this colony. The colony is being run
Super Bowl
by
tickets.
This colony is being run by someone who is a little greedy and less than scrupulous.
That's a player selling Super Bowl tickets.
And there's this product called Recall, which allows them, instead of going on vacation, you can just have the memories of going on vacation.
That's so depressing. When you're done with vacation, you have the memories, but you're sad that you're not on vacation anymore.
But the best part of memories is making them.
That's true.
But
making them.
But apparently Arnold's character has been sent there by his real self. This is a hard movie.
You're doing a good job. Keep going. Keep going. You're there. You're getting close.
Basically, Arnold Schwarzenegger is trying to find out what's real and what's not.
Well, because he wants to go on one of these vacations, right, and they get to ask him all these questions like, hey, you're going to meet a woman. Right. What do you want her to look like? All these things. And then when he goes into it, he comes out and he's been like a secret agent.
Turns out like he's a double agent or something. And,
he's a bad guy. Spoiler alert.
Well,
he was a bad guy.
He was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think that's a pretty solid.
It's a real identity crisis kind of movie.
Summation.
It is a real identity crisis.
Have you seen? I forget.
I had never seen this before.
Why did we do this?
Because I had not seen it before. So it was brought up, and I just hadn't seen it before. I'm guessing I would have enjoyed it more if I saw it in real time. Back in the day
in 1990.
Because one of the first things that stood out to me was, I get it. I'm trying not to punish it for being of its time.
Wow, that's usually what Nick does.
But the special effects were kind of jarring to me.
Oh, man, I loved the special effects in it.
They were, but they were almost like, it was almost like a step up from the original Godzilla movies.
Really? I would say, I thought, Kent, that they were like the last vestige of practical effects.
They were definitely practical.
And I thought they were, like you could tell when it wasn't Arnold, suddenly when he's pulling a thing out of his nose or whatever it was. But right. I liked it. But I've really grown to love practical special effects in recent years, even if it doesn't look perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the effect, they won an Oscar for something to do with the design and production and that kind of stuff. So which there wasn't such thing as an effects Oscar back then. So
correct.
It's like some guy who did makeup figured out how to make it look like your face was exploding, and they really ran with that concept.
They leaned into that a lot.
They did.
Eyes bulging.
Yes, they did lean into it. It's like when you find out that your gizmo does a certain thing and you can't stop doing it. They discovered.
Wait, what's the gizmo in this situation?
The gizmo, John.
Just imagine.
You're talking about 13-year-old John again?
You can imagine whatever the gizmo can be. Whatever
John
it is you want it to be. The gizmo can be whatever you want it to be. But they really did lean into the, hey, look, my face is about to explode.
They definitely.
It was
Special
a cool
effect.
They
did it a lot.
They
did it a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. But as far as the story itself, the thing that stood out to me was, because when you go into watching an Arnold movie, you expect it to have certain things. This character that Arnold played was more vulnerable than a typical Arnold Schwarzenegger character.
Sharon Stone beats him up multiple times.
Which is weird because, he's a guy who's, 265 pounds jacked, and here's Sharon Stone kicking the crap out of him.
Mm-hmm.
However, that's why he did the movie, is to not just be that one-dimensional, action star kind of guy.
Correct.
And what this movie started out as was an adaptation of a Philip K. Dick science fiction story, and it's a short story. And that story is about the first 40 minutes of the movie is kind of close to the story that Philip K. Dick wrote. Once you get him on Mars and all the violence starts, that's the new stuff that 4 screenwriters put together. Okay. So that's how the movie sort of came together. And I don't know if you guys looked up anything about it, but it was in development hell.
Yeah.
For 2 decades. There were 7 directors attached to it.
Wow.
Before it finally got made. And Paul Verhoeven made it. And this is right in the middle of his big run, right? He had RoboCop, and then he had this, and then what was the next one he did? And then he ran in the ditch with Showgirls.
And Kent, I was listening to the rewatchables about it this morning. This at the time, and not for very long, but at the time, it was the highest budget ever for a movie, right? Yes. And so there was a ton of concern that, as you mentioned with the development hell, that it was going to be a huge bomb, and it ended up making them so much money.
Yeah.
And it was a huge hit. Yeah. The other 2 things, okay, that I thought of while I was watching this, only nobody else is going to think of this because they're directly to me. I met Arnold for the first time shortly after this movie came out.
Okay.
Awesome.
And the thing that struck me, and the thing that I actually wrote, was, he's this, you see him on the screen and he's like this big guy and all buffed up and all of that. Standing next to him, he's about my height, and I'm right around 6 feet, maybe a little bit over. And I wrote, he was not even, was not physically imposing. And I compared him to like Kenny Walker, who was playing for the Huskers at the time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So and so whenever I see this movie or Kindergarten Cop, which was his next movie, I saw him before Kindergarten Cop came out, but after this, that's when I met him. I met him a couple times subsequent. That's number 1. Number 2, this thing pushed him to his acting limits because he was kind of good, but the boy is never going to be a great actor,
I love when he's in the chair the first time and he's that was so funny.
See, that's the thing that stood out about this movie is and it kind of takes you out of it. It's anytime, because you could definitely tell it was all done in post-production, the audio, but when he's struggling and when he's in a fight, when someone's trying to wrestle him to the ground, just the, I mean, his screaming, his grunting is it's almost cartoonish.
Yes.
Because it just sounds so, and this happens throughout the entire movie. And every time it happened, I started to chuckle, and it took me out of the action, the drama of that event, because all you're hearing is this.
It definitely has a lot of unintentional comedy involved with it. I will say this, Kat, you watch some of the old sci-fi movies and, sometimes you're going to have a killer premise and other times you're not. I think the premise of this movie absolutely rocks, and it gets you into the story so fast. Plus there's, it's always interesting when you watch a movie from 1990. So this was made in the 80s. I mean, basically they have FaceTime or Zoom, whatever you want to call it, with all that type of communication. They have the big screens on their walls. So, I mean, in some ways they were very ahead of their time. And then in other ways,
they missed the butt out of the movies completely, including the giant Fuji film.
Yeah.
Go for it. Right?
But I think the premise of this movie is good, and it gets you, how fast before they're into the story. It does not waste a whole lot of time. The movie just moves.
Which is the Philip K. Dick story. That first, what you're talking about that pulls you in is that original story that came from a 23-page novella. So it's really going to go, right? So.
Yeah. You can definitely tell where that ends, and then the movie, the screenwriters take over, because basically the last half is dead bodies all over the place. I mean, people are getting shot all the time. The violence, everything ramped. Not that there wasn't violence in the front half, but the back half, it was almost nonstop fight scenes, almost like that. What was that Tom Hardy movie we watched a few weeks ago? Kind of
yeah.
like that, where it was just like
Ugh.
nonstop violence
The
almost the rest of the way.
Batman
somebody
prequel.
counted, I think, a body count of over 250 in the second half of the movie.
Wow.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's crazy because, you know, a movie like this, like I trying to explain what it is, it's a complicated plot, right?
It definitely
for and it's kind of like I guess an Inception type thing where you really got to pay attention to, you know, who's doing what when and where it's going for an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. And from that standpoint, it's rather interesting. I did not enjoy it as much as I enjoy other Arnold Schwarzenegger movies because, again, I think some of it was the taking me out of it, but also some of the special effects. I mean, I thought
it really took you out of it.
I thought the special effects in Running Man, which was 3 years before this, were better than this.
Interesting.
And I get it. Mars is a red planet, but all the red just drove me crazy.
Well, they're on Mars.
I know.
I'm glad you brought that up though, because that was one of the first I'm a space nerd. I like space. We've known that Mars has a blue sky for a while, like at least since the 70s. We've known that. So whenever they would do the Mars shots and it was just all red on red on red on red, that bugged me a little bit. It wasn't enough to super take me out, but every time I saw that, I'm just like, oh, come on, what are we doing here? And then we got to the end of the movie, of course, and they were saving Mars having a blue sky for the big reveal at the end.
Yeah, so you got your blue sky.
But it bugged me because scientifically it's wrong. It's Mars just has a blue sky. And I understand that I'm arguing fact in a science fiction format.
Correct.
But there are things that science fiction does that are scientific in nature. Like the fiction should be like the mutant radioactive people. It shouldn't be Mars just being all red. You know? Like it feels like a weird part to just it bugged me a little bit.
I can tell.
But that's not all the takes I had on this movie you guys kind of hit on, so I guess it's not as hot of a take as I thought it would be.
Really?
What's that?
Well, I mean, I love the concept of this movie. My favorite kind of sci-fi are the things that are kind of high concept, kind of convoluted, and then like you sit with it, then you can think about it and like the implications of everything. I love that. It did my favorite sci-fi thing where there's world building that's not mentioned. It's shown just in the background, like all the product placement shirts. Like, oh, I guess Fujifilm still exists in the future. I love seeing retrofuturism in old sci-fi movies. Like they have video phones and there's how the video phone looked, and then they're still using CRT TVs. But then part of the world building I was explaining, I'm pretty sure that the ads were targeted ads. Like for Arnold, like, oh, he wants to go to Mars. It shows him a thing for Mars. Man, how am I going to get off this planet? It shows him a way to get cheap flights off of Mars. I don't think that was like a Deus Ex Machina thing. I do think it's implying that they're targeted ads, which I think is really cool. I loved everything about this except for Arnold. I think he's a terrible actor, and I think that this movie was a reach for him.
Wow.
It is really hard for like Sharon Stone's character. At the beginning, when he's first like after he got back from the recall place and he's having his freak out, she is doing such a good job, or maybe it's just a comparatively good job, but you can tell that she's acting. Then Arnold, he talks and he says his lines, and it's just like, what are we doing here? Like she's being genuine, and then he's trying his best, but it's not great. I feel like this movie could have been taken to a better level if it was somebody like a Bruce Willis that was in that role. But then I'm also conflicted because you see this big muscular burly man, but he's kind of dressed like he's dressed. He like being like kind of, oh, I'm like just a little family man. Like, oh, I just want to do these things. Like he's being very, what was the word you used at the beginning? Not soft, but timid, vulnerable.
Yeah.
He's like a very vulnerable kind of character. So then it kind of does a good job of planting like, why is this really beefy, muscular dude acting like this? This feels out of sorts. And then it makes sense when you realize he's like a double, triple, quadruple agent. But I feel like Bruce Willis or somebody, another star from that like late 80s, early 90s, like who's an action star but can also act, would have fit better. I would have liked it better.
Kent, what do you think though? Because my rebuttal would be, I think the camp kind of helps that it's, you know, Arnold instead of like an actual serious actor.
Two things. One is this movie wouldn't have been made if Arnold hadn't signed on to it. Period. It had gotten killed so many times before. So there were other actors that had been attached to it, but they couldn't get the movie made. So it was Arnold's star power, essentially, that was able to get the movie made, number one. Right. Number two, the character, the reason it's such a mismatch is that the character in the Philip K. Dick novella is a timid clerk, as in paper pusher type clerk. And this happened to him.
I definitely would have liked that a little. I would have liked that better.
Made it feel more. I agree with that, with what you were saying there, Nick. The two other things I wanted to point out before I forget, frankly, is one, I remembered the next Verhoeven movie, which starred one of the people in this picture, Sharon Stone.
Oh yes, Basic Instinct.
There we go.
Yeah.
With one of the more famous scenes in
Yes, it was.
And then the other thing, and I don't know if you guys noticed it, and I didn't know this first time I've noticed this. You know, they spent all this money. You were saying it's the most expensive movie they'd made, and they built all these sets because they were real sets, right? They had to build them and couldn't make them with computer. The only computerized stuff in it is the going through the metal detectors when he's going to work.
The skeletons.
I really did like that. That was cool.
And that was that's the only CGI in this.
Okay.
I will.
And so they had to build all these enormous sets, right?
And it took months.
And so if we build them, we're going to destroy them. They blew up every set.
Incredible. I love that.
We've gotten to this point. We haven't talked about Michael Ironside. He plays like the chief henchman, right? The guy basically who's chasing Arnold throughout the whole movie. There's not for a character actor, there's not a better bad guy.
Yeah, you see
every time you see Michael Ironside, it's like
he's a bad guy.
You know that he's going to be a hardcore tough ass bad guy.
Absolutely.
And speaking of tough ass, I read this.
Good ass.
A good ass. I read this as part of the making of the movie. There were a lot of injuries on the set, including Michael Ironside. He got his sternum cracked.
Jeez.
And of course it was going to put filming behind schedule. So Ironside's doctor got Jim Plunkett of the Raiders, Kent's favorite team. Plunkett had a similar injury, and he had a special brace that he would wear. Jim Plunkett brought his brace to the set for Michael Ironside so they could get the movie back on schedule.
That's really cool.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
I have one more soapboxy thing quick that I've meant to bring up. When they first get to the spaceport and they're on Mars, and then he's shooting around, and then he shoots a hole in the airlock or the window, and then it causes all the stuff to escape the air. Why, if you're on Mars in a place that needs to be a controlled, sealed environment, are you using actual like bullets that could penetrate the place you're inhabiting? There's this sci-fi series I really like, The Expanse. They have guns, but they're like ceramic bullets. So if they hit something,
because it was a movie made in 1990.
Yeah, but I feel like that's not a hard concept. Hey, why do we have guns on this place where if we shoot a gun, it will kill everybody?
Because it was 1990.
Well, don't you remember in Hunt for Red October? Some things in here don't respond well to bullets.
It's true.
Oh, by the way, Levi in Colorado points out something that everybody has been asking us to acknowledge. Did we discuss the woman with 3 breasts, or did I miss that? I'm at work. This movie, Kent, when I heard about this movie as a young, spry boy, it was passed down as, there's this woman in it with 3 boobs, and you see them. And I remember just being, as a whatever-year-old, enthralled by the idea. And then I watched it for the first time, which, Kent, I didn't realize this when we picked it last week. I watched this during COVID, which I had zero recollection of. I remember being like, I mean, it's it's 3 pretend boobs, and you just kind of move on.
I think
with
it
your
made
day.
me decide that 3 boobs on one person
Too
is
many.
too many boobs.
Too many.
Like,
apparently,
too many.
they wanted to do 4.
Oh,
Yeah, they said it
They just
looked like a
couldn't fit?
cow. It looked like udders.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
did you find yourself when you were looking, going, okay, which are the 2 that are real?
Well, they were all apparently.
I know, but I that's what I ended.
Troy says, I remember seeing that part with my grandpa. I was 8. What a scene.
Yeah. So, yeah, the 3-breasted woman that was definitely interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Verhoeven does like his nudity. I mean, there's the 3-breasted woman in this one. You mentioned Basic Instinct. He also did Starship Troopers, which there's a lot of naked people in that.
I'm doing my part.
So he does enjoy. I don't know about RoboCop. I never did see RoboCop. Did RoboCop get naked?
I can remember in RoboCop, but there is Ronnie Cox, who was the bad guy in the whatever his name is, the ruler of
of Mars. Yeah,
he was in RoboCop. So the Verhoeven used a lot of the same actors in this little stretch.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, just as a quick aside, he's now gone and making movies in Europe, and he's making these little art house movies, for lack of a better way to put it. Made one about a 17th century nun that came out 2 or 3 years ago that was really good. And when I was watching the credits, I'm like, huh? The guy that made Basic Instinct made this?
interesting. All right, so there it is. I almost said Basic Instinct. Total Recall on Paramount. I was very tempted last night. As soon as the movie ended, the next movie that was suggested for me was The Running Man. I almost watched it again, the 80th time.
Standard suggestion. It was for me too when I watched it.
Oh yeah, now you say that, it was for me as well. Yep.
I
still haven't seen it.
Well, that's because you weren't with us.
I wasn't there that day.
We reviewed the greatest movie.
But I'm reading the novella pretty soon, so maybe I'll check it out, or the actual novel after that. Yeah. So
Ken, is the 2012 remake of Total Recall, is that good?
Awful.
And probably can't, because they tried to rely too much on special effects, I'm guessing.
And they didn't. If you're going to remake it, you better have a good reason to. And they had no reason to, and it just isn't. It's the acting's not any great. It's just bleh, it was awful.